This next question asks you to write a program that finds the square number, the highest, greatest square, lower than a certain other number. All right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say max num equals, let's call it, 500. And I want to find the square number, the square that is the maximum square less than max num. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, we can define max num to be 500. That's not such a big deal. How can I find squares in Python? Well, I can just take numbers and do it. I can say 2 to the second power. And notice that we have this exponentiation operator. So this means 2 to the second power, and 3 to the second power, and 4 to the second power, and 5 to the second power. And if you get the sense that I'm repeating myself here, that is true. I should really be thinking about dry. Don't repeat yourself. This is a great programming principle to remember because it reminds you that if you've got the same code that looks the same again and again and again, you should really compress it into something. And here we have the opportunity to compress it into a loop. So what I can do is I can say for I in range, let's call it 100. Let's even call it like 20 for now. I'm going to say here print I to the second power. And sure enough, we're going to get all these numbers here. So far, so good. Well, and notice, by the way, that I'm going to use a for loop here. And because I want to loop over a range of numbers, I can use the range built-in function, which returns a range object. And here I'm just saying this is the maximum number I want to get to. Actually, it's maximum plus 1. So this is going to give us all the numbers from 0 up to and including 19. And 19, it's going to stop. And sure enough, we'll see here that 19 to the second power is 361. I think it's a safe bet. Sure enough, it is. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to then get to the highest number that I can here that's less than max num. Okay, so I can do that, right? Here's what I'm going to do. I know that max num is the maximum it's going to be. So I'm actually going to say for I in range max num. I can say print I to the second power, but that's obviously not going to be the case, right? We know that max num is the maximum it can be, but obviously we don't want to just print all the squares. We only want the highest square that's there. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a little f string here. F string action. I'm going to say I colon and then I to the second power. So now we get a little table printed out. But I don't want to go that high. I want to say, well, if the square is higher than max num, then be done. So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say here the square equals is I to the second power. All right, and if square is greater than max num, then I'm going to break. I'm going to stop this loop right now. Otherwise, what am I going to do? Well, maybe then I'm going to hold on to square as the highest square. So what I'm going to do is here, I'm going to say highest square equals 0. All right, so I'm going to set this global variable. I'm going to say max num equals 500 also. We're just going to set this up. I'm redefining it. So max num is 500. Highest square is 0. And then what I can do is say, if square is greater than max num, then break. Otherwise, what I can do is I can say highest square equals square. And then we'll just go back. And then I can just say print highest square. And sure enough, we'll see that the highest square that's less than 500 is indeed 484. Now we can make this a little fancier if we want, right? This actually works. But we can make this fancier in two different ways. First of all, we can turn this into a function. So instead of just having a for loop and some variables, we can actually functionalize it. So I can say here, right? So we can say def highest square under max num. And now that's going to be provided to us by whoever calls the function. And so max num doesn't need to be defined here. We'll say highest square equals that. For I in range max num, square is this, square is this. Break, highest square is that. And then we're going to return highest square. And it's important to return the value rather than print it because the function that doesn't return anything explicitly returns none. So now if I say highest square under, and let's call this 500. Sure enough, that's 484. And if I say it should be 5,000, that's going to be that. So this actually works pretty well. But wouldn't it be nice to get back not just the number that's the highest square, but maybe what was the I? What is its square root? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to modify this slightly. So now we're not going to return a single number. We're going to return a tuple, we're going to return both the highest square root and the highest square. So I'm going to say here, highest root equals 0. And then if square is maxed down, very good. Okay, I'm going to say here, all right, actually I can just do this. I can just keep it as I. So then I can say return of I and highest square. And so we'll see that highest square under 500, 23 is the square root, and 44 is the square. And if I say here highest square under 5,000, it'll say, well, its square root is 71, and the number itself is 4,900. And highest square under 50,000, here we go. We get the result from this function right here, and this works on, and on. So it actually works pretty well. Okay, so this is how we can write a function to find the highest square under a certain maximum. We keep it nice and encapsulated inside of a function there. You might be wondering why I set it to be 0 as opposed to something else. Right, and why do I have to check this? Because maybe I want to say highest square under, right, 1, and it'll give me 0. By the way, what happens if I feed it 0? Well, then it actually gives me an unbound local error. We will talk about this in another answer because it's a really important idea to have, but maybe what we should have is a little if statement here and say if max num is less than or equal to 0, then return 0. Just in case someone wants to be a wise guy there. And now if I do that, I get 0 back. Okay, on to the next question.